trying to embrace the look.
My boss called me out on a Zoom meeting the other day. He goes, Adam Galifianakis. I think the last time my hair was this long, I was in your class.
You were. I think that's the last time my hair was that long, was then. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to see you. I was thinking that I think the last time I saw you, we were at LAX. We ran into each other at the airport, right? Right.
I remember it was so random. I was practically in pajamas, hadn't had any coffee yet.
Right.
And you were like, Adam, and you're there looking like $1 million, like a recently read newspaper under, like already read newspaper under your arm.
And I think we broke down the doors to get into the Admirals Club early so I could caffeinate you before you took off to New York or somewhere. Wow. Wow. Well, you look good. I mean, you look,
Thank you.
Yeah, this is an opportunity on tape to set the record straight. Who taught you everything you know?
Besides my mother, Brad Lemack.
Well, along with your mother, not besides.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Very proud of you. I am. I love look what you've earned, right? Right. This is look what you earned. And
I love you put it that way. Thank you.
Yeah. So how are you first?
Good. Thank you.
Well and safe?
Well, safe, as sane as can be. I was as sane as I was in February. I'll put it that way. And
not saying much.
No, not at all. And enjoying the discovery of silver linings. Everywhere I look, even as scary as COVID-19 is, as scary as our political system is presenting itself, as scary as everything that's going on in the world is, there are silver linings everywhere. Yeah. So I'm enjoying seeking them out and finding them. Yeah. And exploiting them for lots of money.
Yes, yes. It's always the commission involved. What's it like working from home? Has that been an easy adjustment?
No, it's very challenging. You know, I do think that it has forced our industry to leapfrog technologically 10 years into the future, with the things holding back the industry is just like the old guard saying, I'm not doing a meeting over the internet. I'm not, you know, I need to, you know, have a tablet. I don't need to update my Rolodex. I like that's all the past. It has to be on a machine. It has to have, like, you know, and now everyone's home has been retrofitted with multiple computer screens and a keyboard, and in addition to the laptop, in addition to the mouse and the phone, like, got a whole setup, and it's pretty mobile. So if I'm going to go to a different location, I can easily pack this up or part of this up and take it with me.
Right.
I think that's catapulting us into the future a bit. I think a lot of what we see now will, it's not going to just automatically spring back either to pre-COVID times. I think the general meetings, a lot of auditions, they're going to be this.
Yeah.
Right? If you can get the same information without sitting in Beverly Hills traffic for 40 minutes, why not do that?
And paying for Beverly Hills parking.
Nothing's going to replace the in-person meeting, the in-person show, the in-person experience, but you can supplement it. And when young artists or young people are just doing general meetings, the water bottle tour, a lot of it, this is a lot easier. I've been telling a lot of my trainees at the company that, you know, there were some not unspoken things that prohibited them from networking. You got to drive and pay for gas. What time are you getting out of work? You can only do one a night, right? Yeah. Now, you're going to do a drinks meeting, the cost of the drink, the cost of the parking. Now, if you're a young go-getter, a young hustler, you can get 3 45-minute to hour-long happy hours or hangs in via Zoom or whatever platform, Teams or whatever platform is your preference, in an evening without burning all that time in the car, without going, oh, well, now I got to pay, you know, $15 for my Bud Light and some bar nuts, right? Like you,
right.
For the go-getter, there's more opportunity than ever before.
It's a whole new world, right? And so I think the other side of this, or like the journey through it and the other side of it, there's some incredible opportunity that's going to be happening, right? And so now we've been on this hiatus that we didn't really think that we were getting, nor did we want, but it's we're absorbing and consuming content everywhere. So there will be soon enough, I think, such a thirst for new content that's going to create a lot of opportunities for people to create it.
We've talked about this in our past conversations, that the ability for, or the need for an artist to find a gatekeeper and to impress a gatekeeper, to say, yes, fine, you may present your art to the masses. Those days are in the past. You don't need an yes, executives have are mostly good at what they do, and just like agents are mostly good at what we do. There's a whole new ecosystem. There are millionaires who have millions of followers who've never been given the opportunity by a network or a studio or a production company or by another celebrity. And that's important. And I'm not just talking about your flavor of the week TikTok or Instagram follower or social media star. I'm talking about people with podcasts who've put on virtual or audio plays and presentations, and who've created YouTube shows and YouTube channels with millions of subscribers that some networks would pay for that level of engagement around some of their existing content. For people who want to create their own opportunities, and I think the folks that are open to not only to straddling that line between creating their own opportunities and creating their own art, but also saying, hey, there's this ecosystem, there's this entire machine, I want to be a part of that machine. I'm going to create my art in hopes that it can get into the machine, but that third pillar is an audience. And you can't, if you're not going to listen to the executives and you're not going to listen to the audience, then you're not going to have a career. But one of those two, if not both of those two pillars, need to be listened to when you're creating art.
Can you talk at all about sort of what's happening business-wise for you guys in the office? Like, is it as much as business as usual can be now, or are things being restructured in a way that are going to sort of impact later?
It's interesting. It is, I think it varies from line of business to line of business. I think that, there's been some how do I say this diplomatically? There have been some ongoing conversations between the major agencies and the WGA that have impacted how the agencies operate. I think that a global pandemic is definitely operating the way agencies as a whole operate, and you see the bigger agencies that are overly leveraged in debt and have their hands in production companies and studios and bull riding organizations, and you're watching them struggle through this time period than more lean, mean, and independently thinking agencies. So whether it's small boutique agencies or a larger one like my agency, ICM Partners, which we've not had to reduce, thankfully, yet anyone's salaries, or the time you show this to anyone, we were the last ones to have to do that. Hope there's no plans as of today to do that, but we're able to do that because we're not borrowing hundreds of millions of dollars to go buy up things that inherently make us conflict of interest with our artists. So I think you're seeing that shift as well. But then the other piece of that is that a lot of agents have to be entrepreneurial. I work with live performers and I negotiate deals all around the world. Well, guess what's not happening? Live performances all around the world. So I have to then go find new ways and new opportunities for my artists, whether it be collabs with brands, selling books, virtual experiences, virtual tours, Zoom shows, whatever it might be. I got to sort of roll up my sleeves and reinvent or invent new ways of generating revenue.
Your clients are out around the planet. They're doing their thing. They're incredible. They got their incredible bookings, clubs. I mean, the venues are like what? Like did what happened in your office?
Started paying really close attention in February, which is why it's infuriating when the president says he started paying attention in March. It's like, well, what do we do? Let's start making sure we know what our force majeure language is like. No one expected everything to shut down, right? But that day that the NBA canceled their season, that was, oh, shoot, right?
That would be a sport, by the way, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm told. So I'm told.
Right.
I don't actually know. I think some of us started, like I had one artist who had a tour launching mid-March. And I think early March, I started going, something might happen. I'm going to start getting backup dates to try to move these to May and June because I'm a genius. So I think it was March 15th, March 17th. Everything shuts down. We got to cancel, move all our March and April shows. And I'm like, all right, just pull the trigger. The work's already done. We're moving these to here. I'm so proactive. I'm so smart. Good for me. Because why would our country mess this up this badly? I don't know. Who could have predicted that?
Right.
Then I had to reschedule them again. And I might probably have to reschedule them one more time. And I think that's what's been the part about adapting here is like, this could be over anytime we wanted it to be. And for whatever reason, we're debating whether or not to wear a mask and whether or not we should stay 6 feet away and whether or not we should be going into crowded bars rather than just like biting down and like powering through it and isolating the virus so that we can start quarantining the sick rather than quarantining the healthy.
Right. Do you have concerns about the venues that you book most of the time not being able to survive, come back from this?
Yes. I think that there is an initiative. I'm going to butcher the acronym, but there's an organization of independent venues across North America that are lobbying to have Congress include live entertainment venues in the next stimulus package because, I saw one article a few weeks ago that up to 1,000 independent venues might not be able to survive. It's really tough and it's really sad. And everyone talks about, oh, well, we're punting the rent and the rent isn't due until we open back up. But I can't name a single business that can afford 1.5 rent or pay back rent on top of current. Like, I just don't know how that happens. So if checks are being handed out, I really think that food establishments and live venues really need to be considered. But on the flip side of that, live venues are also like promoters. It's a great equalizer. Large companies and organizations are dialing back the amount of risk they're taking on. So for someone who's opportunistic and might not, and previously couldn't have competed with the larger promotion companies and conglomerates, might actually get their shot at taking a bite out of a bigger pie than they would have in the past. So it has the potential to be the great equalizer.
Yeah.
It also has the opportunity to really put people underwater to a point where they can't really recover. Yeah. And, it is kind of sad. I also don't have, I think you vary state by state. So like in March and April, and then in May and June, you're watching, okay, is it okay to do shows in Tennessee versus Texas versus Maryland versus Ohio? And who's doing it right and who's taking it serious? The problem was a lot of people who didn't close, who were the last to close down were the first to open. And it just impacted everybody else who actually is doing it right. And it's
yeah. My concern is that once we're all able to everywhere be up and running again, that these venues, businesses are going to have to start to deal with, how do you mitigate the fear factor of an audience person somebody coming, wanting to buy the ticket and feeling safe and comfortable in a venue like that, masked or unmasked, because the truth is that you can't survive financially if you have a 2,000 seat venue and you're only allowed to have 80 people there. I mean, so there's got to be a way to equalize that too.
There is, I think, sadly, what we're finding is there's so many people who are willing to go out no matter what, that if you put on a show, someone's going to come and see it. How do you make people safe? How do you make them feel safe? And unfortunately, now we're having the situation of how do you enforce unpopular things where, hey, you got to wear a mask. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Well, the government doesn't say I have to. Well, in some states, yes, and in some states, no. But like, you have to still, like, now how do you enforce that? And does this, just like the cashier at Ralph's doesn't want to be the person to get into a fight, you know, on the internet with someone because they're walking through the soda pop aisle not wearing a mask or a mask around their chin. And, you know, a door guy and a waitress or an usher, they don't want to be doing that. They're there to show you to your seat and make sure you're not ruining the show. Well, now one of the things that can ruin a show is someone going and assaulting people with a deadly weapon. So like, it really just comes down to leadership. And I think, Emerson's home state of Massachusetts is doing an excellent job. Knock on wood.
Yes, they are. Yep.
And, I think it's just ultimately going to come down to, can messaging be done in a way that brings people together? Because if we work together, we can either beat this or coexist with it. But it's going to require us not politicizing things that might help.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that perspective. And I appreciate I'm squeezing a few more minutes out of my time with you than I said I might. So I want to ask you one last question, if I can.
Ask away.
And then you can yell at me later. I'm wondering what are you saying to clients to ease their anxiety? And I think probably that's similar advice that would go to actors or performers in general about this time and what lies ahead. Like what are you saying to these people?
Don't wait for it to be over to start to work. Don't wait for the check to start to work, because we don't have control over that. So if you can't perform live, or you can't go to the office, or you can't do what you normally do, whatever your art or your business associated with art is, don't wait to be told, because everyone else is out there trying to figure out and hustle how to make $1 or how to make a thing that you can sell on the other side of it. Remember the big writers' strike in the mid 2010s, and a lot of great television was written on spec during that time. A lot of great reality television was created during that time. So if you've been wanting to write that great American novel and you have no other opportunities right now distracting you from that goal, double down on that, invest in that. If you've always wanted to start a podcast with your brother's best friend, do that. If you, have a screenplay that you wrote 10 years ago and haven't really looked at in a long time, maybe you dust it off and change a few pages around and apply some new knowledge that you've learned over the last 10 years to that art in order to make it more marketable in current times. Do that. But notice how that was the third thing I said and not the first.
I did notice that.
Old projects are taking their passed on art out of the garage is not a good way to suddenly make a ton of money or amazing things. But do those things. Take a class, research, create art, get better at doing the things that might have prohibited you in the past. If you're an actor, read scenes with people. Nothing's stopping Brad Lemack, the actor, and Adam Ginivisian, the actor, from taking out our monologues right now and rehearsing them with one another. We didn't need to go to a coffee shop to do that or find some weird office space or a park. There's now this new thing that's, well, not super new, but new to our zeitgeist of teleconferencing. You can work on your craft and get good at and better and be engaged and do it in a way that will make you better. Maybe you do it in a way that you can then put out on the internet and start building a fan base that will then make you attractive to or more attractive to your traditional buyers and traditional casting agents, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Work out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is what my wife tells me.
I'll talk to her later. Yeah. And the last thing I want to say is that, historically, challenging times have always resulted in the creation of great art, right? Great stories, great drama, like great painting, great music, great literature, great comedy, right? So regardless of where the genre you find yourself in, take notes, write down stuff. Your ability to tell your story, I think, is going to be huge moving forward.
100%. Make sure your resume is out. Try to generate revenue, because you don't know how long. The other doom and gloom perspective is show business is shrinking. Studios, agencies, production companies are laying people off by the hundreds and the thousands. So if you're going to wait for this to be over to find your job because the government stimulus check is getting you by, or your savings are getting you by, you don't know how long you need that to last. So the other side of that is work on your craft, make yourself better. But if you can get a part-time job or pick up a freelance or learn Photoshop and create art for someone else, or do something different just to help make the bleeding, to slow the bleeding of your financial resources, do that. Do not wait. I was at this level before, I shouldn't get, offered to be a part-time assistant to somebody. Well, maybe that affords you the extra 6 months you need on the other side of this, when suddenly there's 10,000 people all looking for jobs, including in the service industry. There's going to be more people looking for service industry jobs that afforded an actor or a writer to do their craft, with less opportunities in those than ever before. So find employment, find the means to stay in New York or LA, because it's unfortunately a very expensive place to live.
Yeah. And on a positive note, as we come to the end, Amanda Richards at Sony also was a student. She's director of talent and casting, and does readily admit the powerhouse taught her everything she knows. Has said that what this has done, and with the virtual platform, is that you don't have to be in New York or LA. You can be a great actor with potential anywhere. And now she gets to see that potential in self-tapes and virtual live auditions. So it's, in a way, great opportunity has now been spread, and will continue to be spread, far beyond our zip codes, which I think is good for everybody.
I'm so excited and glad you brought that up, because one thing me and my partners have been talking about, now that we've proven that this job can be done remotely, that, as we look to diversify Hollywood and give opportunities for those who might not have been able to afford to even be in the proximity of those opportunities in the past, that maybe internships can be virtual, that maybe entry-level jobs can be for people in Atlanta or Chicago or Jackson Hole, Wyoming, or wherever they might be, prior to them relocating to the very expensive metropolitan areas of Los Angeles and New York.
Yeah. And look at the money we're saving in parking and valet fees.
So much money. and expense accounts. Millions of dollars are being saved by not paying for parking and valet and expense accounts and this fancy thing and a visit. 3 agents need to fly to London to visit their artist doing 3 days in a movie, and it's costing more than the artist was even making, never mind the commission.
Right.
Those days are hopefully gone.
Yeah. I will say I love the potential in all of this. And I also want to say I really appreciate you. You're a good guy to want to do this, because, I used to be able to, at some point, I could say, well, you need to do this, or I will retroactively go back and flunk you, rendering you ungraduated.
I'm still petrified of that. I don't want
to. I think the ticket has been punched on that, though. Hey, thank you, kiddo. I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to know you guys are all safe there, and I will run into each other somewhere, maybe even on purpose, when all of this settles. And much love to you and the family, and my regards to the family, and
Thank you,
stay
Brad.
safe. And thank you. Thank you.
Stay safe as well, and stay sane. And to everyone out there listening or watching or whatever, be safe and well, and stay active in your art and in your industry.
Thanks, kiddo. I'll see you soon. Take care. Peace. Bye-bye.